Hello, welcome to Miss Hodgson's online kitchen class. Today I'm going to be making Banoffee Pie, which I'm quite excited about, although I can't eat it, which is very sad. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line the tin here. First of all, you need to put some cling film on it, and it really helps if you put water on first, because then it sticks. So I'm getting my pastry brush, dabbing it in water, and then just going around there, but don't go too wild with the water, otherwise it will get really soggy, which you don't want. So just try and put a little bit on, and then I'm going to my fingers the cling film. Oh, do I have enough? Yes, I think I do. I hate the cling film when it comes to the end. It gets all kind of crinkled. It's not really very nice. Right, so I'm going to put my cling film just around here, like that. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a circular shape for the middle to line the base. So if you start off with some greaseproof paper, and then you need to get a square. So the best way to do that is just to fold one of the corners over and then just cut along like that. Okay, once you've got a square, then fold it in half like that to make a triangular shape. Then fold that in half again, like so. Fold it in half again. Okay, and this is the centre bit. So then just do another fold around the centre, like this. That should be okay. You can fold it again if you like, but that should be sufficient. Then put the point in the centre, and then you can measure whereabouts you want the circle to be. And just do a little pinch there. So I want it there. And you can either rip it if you're very strong. In fact, I'll try and rip it. There, yes, I can do it. So you can rip it like that, or if you've got some scissors, you can use the scissors. And then if you open it up, then you have a circle. So I'm going to place my circle in the bottom. So we've got the cling film around the side so the pie doesn't stick. And those of you that have either eaten or made banoffee pie before, you'll know that it's very sticky. That's done. I've crushed my digestive biscuits already. I used 10 digestive biscuits, which is the perfect amount. So get 10 digestive biscuits. I use the back of a rolling pin to crush them with. So I crushed it with the back of a rolling pin, but you can put it into a freezer bag if you like, and then use a rolling pin again to bash it inside. But I found just putting it in the bowl was absolutely fine. So if you have a look there, you can see that it's already in some really nice fine breadcrumbs. And I've already pre-melted my butter here. So 75 grams of butter melted, and then that can just go straight in. Making sure I've got all the bits there. I'm going to mix that together and make sure you've got no dry bits, because when it's in the fridge, obviously the butter's going to solidify. So I've melted the butter, and butter melts at around 32 to 35 degrees, so it's got quite a low melting point. If you have a look up here, so butter is a saturated fat, and the chemical structure of fat is it's got one glycerol molecule and then 3 fatty acids, and that's called a triglyceride, and that's basically the chemical structure of any type of fat. So this is butter's a solid fat, whereas oil is a liquid fat. That's mixed all together there. So as soon as that goes back in the fridge, that's going to solidify again. Put it back into here, and then just use the back of the spoon to press it down. So if you've made a cheesecake before in a large pan, we did make cheesecake last term actually, didn't we? But some of you used a glass, so you wouldn't have needed to pat it down, but just pat it down as hard as you can. Or actually, if you prefer a more kind of crumbly texture, then you don't have to pack it down quite so much. But I'm using a medium kind of strength to pat mine down, because I don't want it too crumbly, but then I don't want it to be rock solid either. I'm just going to smooth that around, and then this needs to go into the fridge for 15 minutes. So when you take it out again, the butter, the temperature obviously is going to lower the temperature of the butter in the fridge, and then that's going to solidify. So this is going to go in the fridge. Okay, while my biscuit base is in the fridge, I'm going to make the caramel sauce. So I've already weighed out my butter and the sugar at 75 grams of butter. So it's the same amount of sugar that you use for the biscuit base. So it's nice and easy to remember, although obviously you will have a recipe. And also it's 75 grams of sugar. Now in the recipe it says light muscovado sugar, but I couldn't find any anywhere. So I've just used some brown caster sugar, and fingers crossed that will work. So the first thing you need to do is you need to melt down the butter and melt down the sugar together. So I'm just waiting, and if you remember from before, butter has quite a low melting point, so the butter will melt first. So my butter's melting already. In fact, while we're waiting for that, we can just quickly go over to the cupboard and talk about caramelisation. So we did a little bit on caramelisation last term, and that's exactly what's going to be occurring in the caramel, the middle bit of the Banoffee pie. So what happens is the sugar, so it has heat applied to it, and then the water evaporates there, the H2O evaporates, and that's what it originally looks like. That's what the structure looks like. So the OH represents the hydroxide, and the HO represents holmium there. And then it turns into glucose and it turns into fructose when it melts down and heat's applied to it. So this is what the glucose looks like here, the glucose molecular structure. And then this is what the fructose looks like. And they both have different colours and they have different flavours as well. So back over to here. In fact, I'm going to use the large hob for this because I think that will be a bit more effective. But I'll just wait till that heats up. We, my sons camped out last night, and we had the little camping stove outside, and they cooked some eggs over the camping stove, and it was a gas stove. And I was commenting on how I thought the gas stove was actually better than one of these halogen ones. I really don't like the halogen ones. So one day, or when we get our next cooker, I'm definitely going to get gas because I much prefer cooking on gas. I think it's a lot more effective. So those of you that have gas at home, I'm jealous of you. So enjoy cooking with your gas. It's such a great heat to use, and that's what all professional chefs use in professional kitchens. So I can see this melting together, but I can still feel the sugar is quite grainy. So we need to heat that up a little bit more and wait until that melts. And then once it's all melted together, we're going to add the condensed milk. So those of you that have used condensed milk before, you might have used it for maybe millionaire shortbread or something like that. Condensed milk is basically milk mixed with sugar, and it's just cooked really, really slowly. And then obviously the water evaporates down and it condenses, and then it mixes together, and it creates a kind of, it's kind of custardy. It reminds me a little bit of custard. I wouldn't necessarily eat it on its own, but it's great for making caramel, and it's what a lot of people use to make caramel now. So, or you could, you know, there are other recipes where you can make caramel without condensed milk. You use cream instead. But I'm being kind to you because it's a bit more foolproof actually using the condensed milk. So we'll use the condensed milk today. So I can now see the bubbling in the pan. See it bubbling together. So it's actually really, even just butter and sugar together makes a really, really nice caramel there. And then when you add the milk, it gives it more of a creamy, kind of toffee-ish kind of taste, I suppose. So we've got the sugar, raw sugar mixed with the butter, and then we've also got the sugar in here in the condensed milk, and it's all going to be caramelizing together. So at the end, the flavour it gives is really delicious. And there are different kinds of flavours from caramel depending on how long you cook it. We want this to be a darker brown than it is, but not too dark. I think if it gets too dark, then it gets a little bit bitter. So we want it darker than it is, but still quite a nice creamy colour. So you need to mix it for 3 minutes, making sure you don't burn the edges. I've been stirring the caramel sauce now for quite a long time actually. It does say 3 minutes, but I've been doing it for probably nearly 10 minutes actually. And the reason is because I've had to turn it right down because it does catch on the edge of the pan and it does burn. So if you can have a look, it has thickened up and it has darkened. So you want it that kind of shade. You don't want it too dark, you don't want it too light. And just stir it consistently. I'm just going to pour it over here. It's very sticky, and then it needs to go into the fridge for about half an hour. So I'm just going to spread it out using my wooden spoon. The tray that I'm using is really quite wide. Some of you might be using one that's a bit more narrow, so yours will be a little bit thicker, whereas this is going to have quite a thin layer actually of this, but that's absolutely fine. Spread it around for the edges, and it should set after about half an hour. And then don't chop your banana though until it's ready, otherwise it will go brown and the enzymic browning will occur, the oxidation. So right, now I'm going to put this in the fridge for half an hour. I've taken the pie out of the fridge now. It's been in there about half an hour, and I've tested the top bit and it's solidified quite nicely. So when you cut into it, it's not going to all ooze out. It needs to have that nice sticky texture. I sliced my bananas. I only had really tiny bananas, so I used 3 small bananas, and I've cut them at an angle so I can make the most out of the size of them. I have, however, used a really, really large flan case. So some of you will be using one that's a lot smaller. So it's up to you how you cut your bananas, but make sure they're not too thick. So now I just need to lay my bananas out over the surface. Luckily I had just enough bananas to fill the whole surface, which is good. And as you can see already, they're starting to go brown. So that's enzymic browning. So obviously the oxygen in the air is reacting with the enzyme in the banana, which is turning it a brown colour. The next thing I need to do is put my cream into a piping bag. Now, not everyone's going to have a piping bag, I understand that. So you can just put the cream on top and then just smooth it out with a spoon if you like. So I've already whisked my cream up. There we go. So aeration. So that obviously if you buy double cream, it starts off very liquidy and then you add air into it. And then the fat globules in the cream gather around the air bubbles, and then that's what gives it more of a solid structure. So it's a bit like when you're whipping an egg up and the protein's going around the air bubbles, apart from it's the fat globules that are going around the air bubbles. So it's kind of the same technique, just different ingredients. And there's 35 to 40% fat in double cream, so it's quite fatty, and it's something that I can't eat as a vegan. There are some vegan alternatives, and actually more recently I started using coconut cream instead of cream and mixing it with cream cheese, which tastes very cream-like. So I've filled up my piping bag, and hopefully I've got enough cream to cover the surface. This is a rather large flan case. And then I was going to start around the edges. I always do 2 opposite each other, and then I do 2, and then I do 1 in the middle, and then I do another one in the middle like that, in the middle like that, and then I just do another one, so then it always looks even at the end. So if you're quite methodical in the way you do things, and then you can go in the middle like that, and then you can do 1 there, do 1 there, and it's just a case of filling in the gaps. So first I'm going to go around and fill in, and just keeping my fingers crossed that I don't run out of cream. Already used up over half of it, so let's hope I've got enough to do the whole thing. There's nothing worse than running out of cream just before the end. So then I'm just going to fill in some of these other gaps here. So when you're piping, it's really important that you press from the top. I've seen so many people grab the bottom and then it all comes out the top. So you must sort of wind it down and then just make sure you're pressing from the top. And you don't have to press that hard either, because it comes out quite easily. Okay, still got some more gaps to fill. We're all running out. Please let the view know. I think next time I make this, if I ever make it again, I'll make sure that I've got a smaller flan case. So if I was doing my evaluation after and I was doing an even better if, which is what you'll have to do, I would say to myself that I would use a smaller flan case, because my banoffee pie is going to be probably about that thick and also not quite the right amount of cream to cover the top. Although I'll try and squeeze a tiny bit more out, maybe. Let's see if I can just get even a bit more. I really think that that's going to make a huge difference. I'm actually going to put one more squeeze out of it. Oh, there we go. That's not too bad. And if you've got some chocolate, either milk or plain chocolate, then you need to melt it, and then you can just do a zigzag across the middle. I'm just going to use cocoa powder because I didn't get any chocolate whilst I was in the shop, and I only realised when I came out, and I didn't want to join the queue again to get in the shop. So I've just got a tiny bit of cocoa powder here. Just get a sieve above and don't chuck loads in, otherwise what will happen is it will just fall through and then make a really heavy mark on one part of the pie. So you've got to kind of be really gentle with it, and then you can scatter it all over. So scattering the cocoa gently over the surface like that. That looks quite attractive. Oh, a bit heavy-handed over that part there. And now you need to put it in the fridge for a further hour, and then after that hour the cream should be nice and cold, and then it will be ready to eat. If you leave it for longer, then I will find that the flavour's nicer. The banana absorbs some of the caramel and it tastes a lot nicer. So I hope you enjoy your banoffee pie. Thank you.